With U.S. carrier strike groups in the Mediterranean and Gulf and F-22 stealth fighters now on Israeli soil, the military signaling toward Iran has intensified dramatically. To break down what this force posture really means and how close we may be to escalation, we're now joined by a 26-year naval veteran and senior research fellow for naval warfare and advanced technology at the Heritage Foundation, Brent Sadler. Thank you for joining.
Well, thank you for having me.
And so, with Geneva talks set for tomorrow and for Friday, how serious do you believe Iran actually is about reaching a deal? Is there a real chance for diplomacy?
Well, the only thing that Iran's diplomats seem serious about is trying to run the clock out and to try to get as many concessions from the U.S. and other Western powers without giving up anything. That remains their objective, and they haven't really changed because they've not offered any concessions on their part. Again, the ball's in their court to honor the commitments that have been made in the past, UN obligations as well, to dismantle and not pursue nuclear weapons, and certainly no more enrichment. And I think very clear the President of the United States has not got the patience to continue on indefinitely with these negotiations. And the military that's being arrayed provides him quite a wide range of military options. Most importantly, a sustained one, not just simply ping, prick, or surgical strikes.
Now, with the two U.S. carriers, strike groups now in the region, what does that level of deployment actually signal? Deterrence, preparation, both?
Actually, both. The two carrier strike groups and the ships that are with them provide a lot of defensive capability against missiles. The destroyers that sail with these carriers provide air and missile defense capability, which was demonstrated during the rocket attacks against Israel last summer during Operation Midnight Hammer. But the carriers themselves and their air wings can sustain combat operations at a very high tempo for 5 or 6 days at a time before needing to be rearmed and refueled. You have two of them, that's even more intense, or over a period of 10 days to 2 weeks that they could take turns in and keep that up pretty much indefinitely.
Now, let's talk about the F-22 Raptors. How significant is their arrival in Israel? From a military standpoint, what new capabilities does that introduce into the equation?
Well, this is an old aircraft, but a very lethal one and a very capable one. Coming out just at the tail end of the Cold War, you don't normally see these aircraft forward deployed or put into combat roles, but they have in the past, and they probably will be necessary again because the military force that the president is having arrayed is to provide maximum options for him. And the F-22, more for air dominance, provides a very lethal possibility or potential for that. The F-35 is another fifth-generation aircraft, which is also extremely lethal, much more modern, and has a lot of capabilities to go after targets on the ground.
Is this kind of visible buildup meant primarily for Iran, or do you think it's also for regional actors like Hezbollah and the Houthis?
I think less so for the proxies, very much so to apply pressure and to cause anxiety by the leaders in Tehran to compel them to seek diplomatic solution and to make the needed concessions. The odds are very small that, judging by what we've seen in the past and what we're seeing today, that the Iranians actually will meet that those red lines. But it's also a message to the Iranian people who have risen up, and over 30,000 of them have suffered and been killed at the hands of this regime. So I think it's also a message of hope to the Iranian people. But again, if a strike occurs, one of the key things is it needs to provide an opportunity for the Iranian people to take back their country. The nature of this regime in Tehran is antithetical to peace and stability and throughout the Middle East, and certainly has a lot of American blood on its hands.
Now, if the diplomacy, if that kind of track collapses after the Geneva talks, what would a limited naval airstrike likely look like in the opening 24 to 72 hours?
I really don't like the term limited. It really matters on what the president decides what he wants to accomplish. He has the ability on the high end to go after in a very surgical way using the B-2 bombers and B-1 bombers, B-52 bombers to go and have a very significant hammer to go after the nuclear enterprise, the ballistic missiles, and even the leadership nodes. But the fighter aircraft and the large number of attack aircraft on these two carrier strike groups and the other bases across the region, also notably Diego Garcia, give them the ability to go after the lower intensity targets. These are the operation centers for the IRGC and its affiliates that maintain order on the streets there, to provide that opening for the Iranian people. You saw a glimpse of this during the summer attacks, where you had the prison in Tehran, Evian, was attacked at its gate, sending a very symbolic message to the Iranian people. Imagine that on a much larger and sustained scale across all of Iran.
Now, how difficult, in your opinion, would it be to neutralize Iran's hardened and dispersed nuclear facilities without triggering a very prolonged war?
Well, this is the danger. If the goal is to provide an opening for the Iranian people, it's a lot clearer, to be obvious. The Iranian people do want to change their government there. But if it becomes, if we shift over to going after regime change more directly, then it becomes very tricky in becoming what Americans will not support, a forever war.
Now, do you believe that the U.S. has an intent, or let's say Trump has an intent, to go for something that is very quick or something that may be prolonged?
Well, given his statements in the past, the Iranian regime having to stop its killing of its own citizens, the curtailment of its ballistic missile program, the complete elimination of its nuclear enrichment and nuclear weapons program, and also it is, I guess, the cancellation and the cessation of any support to its proxies and overseas terror networks. These are things the regime could probably say but not honor, and I think that would be very quickly identified or seen as basically reneging on any deal. And again, we're back to President Trump strikes on Iran. Again, the odds are very low that the regime can or will honor any of those four commitments. And it's not an either or, it's an all of the above.
And now I have to ask, everyone's talking about the nuclear program, but what about the ballistic missiles?
Yeah, it's very threatening. This was one of the fundamental flaws of the 2015 nuclear deal signed under the President Obama's administration that allowed the Iranians to continue to develop the delivery mechanisms. It also gave them a window of time to restart their nuclear development. It didn't off-ramp it completely and make sure that they would never have a nuclear weapon. So the ballistic missile program, as we've seen, is very lethal. It is capable. It's not the most capable in the world, but it doesn't have to be to cause death and destruction. And taking it off the board takes a tool of blackmail and coercion that this regime has used in the past.
Indeed, very challenging and anxious times. Thank you very much, Brent Sadler, for your input. Thank you.
Thank you very much.